So we finally have a trailer for the upcoming gangster movie Lansky, starring Harvey Keitel and directed by Eytan Rockaway. This is a film I've had my eye on for a while now. I've made a few videos on it, and I even have a contact with one of the more high-profile crew members who's been giving me updates here and there. As I mentioned a few days ago, a trailer was set to drop on Thursday, which it has done so, and there's a lot to unpack here. So first of all, who is Lansky? Meyer Lansky, a name most gangster movie fans are not unfamiliar with, was an infamous Jewish gangster who was instrumental in forming the National Crime Syndicate. He had a gambling empire that stretched throughout the entire world, and though no one knows just how rich exactly he was, we do know that Lansky was one of the most financially successful gangsters in American history. You may have seen him depicted by Anatole Yusuf in HBO's Boardwalk Empire. There's been a few movies here and there with the character, most notably with Barry Levinson's Bugsy, which I've reviewed on the channel if you're interested, and which starred Ben Kingsley as Lansky in a supporting role. But the door is open for a definitive Lansky biopic. Now, as gangster movie fans, we've been feeding off scraps for years now, haven't we? So many mob movies that come out these days are terrible, like that John Travolta Gotye movie from a few years back, or that weird Al Capone movie where Tom Hardy repeatedly shits himself. Then there's Mobtown, a film that I gave such a bad review to that the director, who's got a role in Lansky by the way, contacted me and started giving me shit. No joke, you can check out a video I did on my encounter with him in the corner of your screen. The Irishman was like a gush of fresh air, a window to the outside world being opened after you've spent years in a diarrhea-infested cage. A film directed by Martin Scorsese and starring Al Pacino, Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro. I still can't believe that movie exists. But the truth is, The Irishman is an anomaly. Gangster movies haven't been a thing since the 90s, and since they are often so disappointing, these days I am immediately skeptical when a new announcement is made. And after watching this trailer, you know what? I think it looks pretty good. You can't judge a movie on a trailer, of course, but there were no red flags in this trailer that stuck out to me, nothing that screamed, this film is going to be terrible. The trailer is engaging, and it's actually raised my expectations of the film, and it's definitely a film I want to see. The movie stars Sam Worthington of Avatar fame, John Magaro as young Meyer Lansky. By the way, this guy is going to be playing a young Silvio in the new Sopranos movie, The Many Saints of Newark. And Harvey Keitel plays the older Lansky. Keitel, of course, needs no introduction. Bad Lieutenant, Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Taxi Driver, Mean Streets, Copland, Clockers. This guy is an absolute beast, one of the most recognizable faces in crime cinema. And the entire reason why I first noticed this project and got attracted to it. So in terms of plot, it looks like an elderly, aging Lansky is telling his story to a journalist for a book being published. Why is he telling this story? Who knows? Maybe he's trying, as suggested by a line of dialogue, to put a positive spin on his past. I do know that this is apparently actually based on real-life interviews Lansky had with the film director's own father. You could have an entire film of Harvey Keitel sitting at a table and having a conversation and telling stories, and I wouldn't mind. That's pretty much all he did in The Irishman, and he completely stole a scene that had both Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci in it. Evidently from the trailer, the film dips heavily into Lansky's past, and the synopsis says he spins a dizzying tale, revealing the untold truth about his life as the notorious boss of Murder Inc. and the National Crime Syndicate. With the movie utilizing the heavy screen presence of Keitel, it looks like the plot also develops to have Sam Worthington's character pressured by the feds into finding $300 million that Lansky has apparently stashed away somewhere. That's actually really interesting because this is one of the great infamous rumours that circulated around Lansky in his later years and after his death, that the man, who only had a modest amount of money in his old age, actually had a huge amount hidden away somewhere. All of this, it seems, is going to be intercut with whatever of Lansky's prime the movie will show us. I imagine it will show his rise in the underworld and establishing himself as a powerhouse. There are names like Charlie Luciano, Ben Siegel, Salvatore Maranzano and Al Capone listed on IMDb as part of the film. So if that's anything to go by, you know this movie should have interesting flashback segments. It's probably the most interesting era of American La Cosa Nostra history. There's several things about the trailer that have given me a perception on the film. First off, the budget looks higher than I would have initially given it credit for. Mob films today look cheap. Chicago Overcoat, Mob Town, whatever, most of them look like the filmmakers really had to scrape by to get the film made. Now, Lansky doesn't look like it's made by billionaires, but I'll tell you what, it looks solid. There's some fine establishing shots. Some of them look really nice, which is definitely worth mentioning because, again, a lot of mob films these days are poorly shot. With the camera so close to the actors, it all feels claustrophobic. But here you've got that nice wide shot under the bridge, the shot of the Statue of Liberty, that shot of the sea with all those skyscrapers. These kinds of establishing shots are underrated. They give a film a fuller feel. You only really notice them when they're not there. Lansky doesn't have that cheap, shitty look of a low-budget B-movie shot on an iPhone. It actually looks very respectable. I like the look of the flashbacks. There's a lot going on, it seems, so hopefully this won't be like Capone with Tom Hardy, which infuriatingly only had around 10 minutes worth of flashback scenes to Al Capone's prime, with nothing of note. Here we see people getting stabbed, shot, screamed at, all sorts going on. And yes, that might mean Keitel isn't in the film as much as we might think, but it will work better for the film if they really go to town with the flashbacks. Keitel really looks the part. Magaro looks like he will hold his own in the flashbacks. I've watched the trailer several times now, and I've got to be honest, I'm really looking forward to this, even more so than I did before. I'm going to keep my expectations measured, of course, but it looks like we might be in for a decent mob movie for a change. Hopefully a great one, with Harvey Keitel in it to boot. Here's hoping anyway. I didn't see a release date mentioned anywhere, but my man on the inside will be sure to let me know as soon as he finds out. So don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date. And thanks for watching.